job, team. As you guys are coming in, I encourage you to take up space in the middle seats and seats closer to the podium because there's not going to be flashy AV. There's going to be just conversation. So very much encourage you to come in from the sides and in toward the middle. Thank you.
In the next 5 minutes, it's a non-zero possibility. Well, I know you work magic.
I think we're good. I've got a cup, and this is going to be my little seat after I give my opening remarks. Then I'm just going to be banished.
I'm going to make a report for that. Well, I actually want to be able to explain you. Now I can separate. Oh, thank you. Free housing. Actually, so I came up with that little I got back from the airport and I go right to the and it took all just to spy me. I love that. Either of those waivers, that's how you describe it. I don't do that when there's all the class kids like do this. Twitter recently. Fire, weather, danger, or wildfires, flame, don't exist, but yeah, was that job thing? Yeah. Talking about the job and stuff. Hey fellas, everybody, let's do a picture. Yeah.
Do you want me to get a picture of you guys?
Oh, no, I want you in here. Well, yeah,
We'll get one with me after we're all done. All right. 3, 2, 1. Wow, this is for history books, guys. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Jeez.
I was going to introduce you, Janice, if that's okay.
Sure.
Is that all right?
That is absolutely fine.
I'm going to be super short. I'm Teresa. Good to meet you. So good to meet you. So right at 2 minutes we'll start?
Actually,
That's good. Okay.
it's already live.
Looks like people are being good and getting back in here. So, yeah, great.
Screenshot of everybody on the phone. Thanks for having nice weather for us. You're welcome. You have the image?
Oh my gosh, I was checked off to that, so I got a great jacket.
Wrappers.
Great.
Down here. He's the person that introduced me to house picking. Got drunk. Can't wave to the camera. You're on live stream.
Oh, is it just? Yep, I am still on
I'm
screen.
watching it. I do. I hate it too, but I'm active.
Welcome back, everyone, from break. Hope you had some lemonade and a snack. I am Therese DiMatteo. I'm the Senior Director of Enterprise Marketing at the Weather Company, and we are very pleased to be sponsoring the Integrated Warning Team and Digital Meteorologists Collaboration Forum. Before I turn it over to the moderator, I just wanted to remind you all to come visit our booth right around the corner there. We have some new products we'd love to show you, and wanted to also remind you that we are hosting a Max user group for all of you that use Max tomorrow. It will be all-day training, and it will be in the room right upstairs from the exhibit hall. You can take the stairs right out the doors. So feel free to join. You don't have to join the whole day. You can come in and out, and there's an agenda at our booth at the Weather Company. So now, let's get on with the forum. I'd like to introduce the moderator, Dr. Kim Cloko-McLean. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is so good to be with you all. Welcome to Huntsville, and welcome to our Integrated Warning Team, or IWT, Collaboration Forum. I want to especially welcome our virtual audience today. We have a really great packed house here in person, but I understand that the virtual audience surpasses what we have even going on in the room. And this is a combination of our weather service folks who we dearly miss that were not able to travel to this meeting today, but for whom this forum is of enormous importance and interest, but also the fans of those assembled here today. They advertised to on all of their platforms, and a lot of their fans, members of the public, are taking a peek into our community and looking at how we do our business. So I'm so excited. Welcome you to all of you, and thank you so much to the NWA for giving us this ability to stream this outside of this room. Can we have a hand for the NWA for that? Thank you. So yes, I am Kim Cloko-McLean, and will moderate the session today. I'll give some opening remarks to set the stage for this, but most of what's going to go on is going to be our panelists here. There's a first panel and a second panel to come. I'll describe what those are in a moment, but first to set the stage a little bit for IWTs. What are they, and why is it so important that we're all here today? For those who aren't familiar with the history of IWTs, it's an idea that was born in the Weather Service, and it was in large part a recognition that just issuing a warning doesn't mean that people are going to receive that directly from you. In our country, we have a very diverse set of communicators and emergency managers who make decisions on the information that ultimately shape what the public is going to hear and how they're going to respond. And so a recognition grew that, we really need to formally acknowledge that these relationships are important, and at least do things like train emergency managers, have outreach to broadcasters. And so that's been going on for some decades. But in the early 2000s, there was a recognition that we needed to do even more than this. The one-way dialogue, or largely one-way dialogue in relationship building, wasn't getting the job done. Because, as disaster sociologists would say, warnings aren't just a technology that needs to just be taught about, they're a social process. It's all about humans telling other humans about risk and deciding something is worth attending to, and that means it's important for you all to know about each other's operations. Not only do you need to know that, as emergency managers or broadcasters about the warning, but the Weather Service would do well to know about your processes, your standard operating procedures, and your timelines for information receipt and delivery, so that you can be doing your jobs more effectively. So they started a series of meetings, in-person workshops, that were all about fostering two-way dialogue, where that's what was discussed. What are your operations like on both sides of the equation, so that we can identify tension points and then work them out? So that brings us to today. You can all appreciate, you've heard a lot this morning about the shifting communication landscape that we're all living in. Social media, streaming platforms changed everything. AI is changing everything. And I think we find ourselves at a moment where all of the traditional arrangements that we've been working to build up over the last decades, or especially the last 15 years, are getting unseated. New markets are emerging, new players are emerging, and we all must adapt. And as a social scientist who, again, studies warning systems to help you understand how they can be most effective, I'm here to say we have to adapt together. If we all adapt in our own ways, separate from each other, it's going to pull us right back to where we were before. Unfortunately, for digital meteorology, bringing all of these folks in, the history's been a little bit complicated. Those relationships have been a little complicated. I think in part because so much of the relationship has taken place virtually. We haven't sat down together, broken bread, built that trust. And that's what we're here to do today. So without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce you to our first panel. Quick proviso though, there are some ground rules for the day. I want everyone to be on their best behavior. I'm here to be more like Oprah, not Springer. But talking to Betsy, I heard that within Betsy lives a little fighter Betsy. She hasn't gotten in a fight in a long time, but she could if things get out of hand. So just know that can happen. Also, Dr. Kim can turn into Dr. Mom. I've got a 2, 4, and 6-year-old, and you don't want to see my mom voice. I can bring it. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. That's right. So, with all that said, this is a starting point. Allow for tension to exist, make space for it, sit with it. There's going to be more to come after today. So today, on our first panel, we're going to hear from a set of digital meteorologists. They're going to share all of their various business models and what they're hoping to get from an engagement with the broader IWT. We have, in no particular order here, we have Ben Luna to my right from Tennessee Valley Weather, and we have David Reimer from Texas Storm Chasers. We also have Matt Lanza from Space City Weather, Max Schuster or Max Velocity, Will Minkoff from Nashville Severe Weather, and on the end, Ryan Hall of Ryan Hall Y'all. And thank you all so much. We're going to you guys can just take a mic in front of you and go ahead and they'll give remarks about their businesses. You can remember, we're targeting like 5-6 minutes each. Maybe we'll get some questions in from the audience before we transition to the second panel. Thank you.
Okay, you can hear me. Howdy. Good to be here. Good afternoon. My name is Ben Luna. I am the owner and managing meteorologist of Tennessee Valley Weather, based in beautiful little Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, about an hour and 15 minutes northwest of Huntsville. We started our operation in 2020. Great year to start a small business, by the way. I had worked in radio, Lord, for half my life. I started in radio when I was 14 years old with the goal of one day being a broadcast meteorologist. I got the opportunity here in Huntsville. I worked at the ABC affiliate for 3 wonderful years, went back to radio as the general manager, and the radio station always had a legacy of weather, and we wanted to build on that, okay? And in 2020 of that year, our main city that we cover was hit by an unwarned EF1 tornado, part of a QLCS event. And the reason why is because we had a big radar hole. And the day after, I've had enough. We've got to start filling this radar hole. And we worked very hard to do that, and we eventually did with a small little solid state X band, that's dual pole. But in the process of doing that, the community said, hey, we want to see you use this technology. And more people said, we want to see. And from there, the idea of Tennessee Valley Weather was born. On April the 12th of that year, we launched. And we started with a studio that was built into a back hallway. And over the course of the next 2 years, things continued to grow. The response was great. We added sports in the process, and things just worked phenomenally well. The reason why we added sports, COVID dictated that only so many people could be at a local ball game. And the business community that supported the weather and the weather initiative that we had came back and said, hey, you've done great with this weather thing. It looks great. We added Barron in the fall of that year, and things were going good. And they said, so we want you to see our kids play ball. And I said, you want me to do sports? The weather nerd? And they said, yeah, go do it. We support the Weather Channel, so we'll support the sports thing. Well, 5 years later, our sports brand, and I'm so proud of this, we completed in the past 24-25 academic year, 800 live streamed ball games. We started our first collegiate sports coverage Friday night, 2 days ago. And so that side has done fantastic. Weather has done fantastic. Our small business of doing weather for a hyper-local area. We don't do it for a whole market. We do it for 16 counties. 16 counties, we carved out a little DMA to make a difference where a difference needed to be made, under the pretense that nobody would die during severe weather. And we're able to do that from small little communities to the bigger cities that we cover. I have a wonderful team of people. We grew from 2 people starting this thing to 3 people, and now I have 12 full-time staff members and a host of volunteers. Our initiative has taken off, and others are starting to pick up on this around the country. And we call this alliance or cooperative the National Weather Network. And there are some members of the National Weather Network in this audience today. And we are so excited because we're able to, again, make a difference and work in tandem with legacy television. We're not here to compete, we're here to complement. And that's what we're trying to do, is just to make a difference where a difference needs to be made.
All right, good afternoon. My name is David Reimer. I am the owner of Texas Storm Chasers. My show name, if you want to call it that, is Baldy in Chief. I think these lights were placed here just to highlight the baldness, but, well, clearly there's no hiding it. I was part of my company's founding back in 2009. So think way back in social media, downfall of MySpace, Facebook was still, well, not what it is today. I guess that's the nicest way to put it. Back in the Facebook and Twitter days. Founded it to be a storm chasing website, share photography and video. Clearly, I wouldn't be up here talking right now if that's the way it had stayed. In 2010 and 2011, we began disseminating weather service graphics and text, the area forecast discussions with a bit of translation for the public on a basic WordPress blog. We'd share that on social media in combination with some of our own visual storm media to kind of correlate what the expectations were. We did a lot of live storm chasing, stuff like that. In the fall of 2011 in Texas, we had a landfalling tropical storm on the border of Louisiana and Texas during the worst drought in Texas modern history. The result was in central Texas, northeast Texas, with 80% of Texas in exceptional drought. We had about 40-mile-an-hour northwest winds, humidities in the single digits, and temperatures near 100 degrees. Not your typical landfalling tropical cyclone environment. The result was an outbreak of devastating wildfires. We had a fire in Bastrop, Texas, about 30 miles east of Austin, burn over, I believe it was about 1,400 structures. We had other fires. We had true forest fires in northeast Texas, hundreds of thousands of acres burned. We lost several people and, thousands of structures. That was the day we became more than just a storm chasing brand. We used our Facebook page back when, Facebook was partly useful as a way to disseminate and communicate information. People were using it almost like you would use a bulletin board, posting evacuation information, new fires near their locations, because we had dozens of fires in the span of 2 days. Shelter information, folks offering barn space, etc. And that's when we were able to grow into almost what has now been called a virtual operations support team or a digital member of the media. Since then, we became part of a integrated warning team in North Texas in late 2012, 2013. Attended IWTs there, 2013, 2014. Continued growing a lot of warning dissemination in real-time text-based, but we were also collecting those reports and introducing them to the integrated warning team. NWS Chat. We are one of the first digital agencies there in NWS Chat version 1 last decade. Fast forward, we kept doing that. In the late 2010s, we evolved and began getting ourselves into the modern video space. We have 254 counties in Texas. We are a state-based organization. That's not changing, covering 13 WFOs. So think about that. 13 different weather service offices, the different criteria for warnings, watches, advisories. Just think of winter weather in the South. I'll leave it at that. We started doing live coverage on YouTube just as a way to offer some additional information to folks who don't live in the major cities. That was a big problem in Texas. Thankfully, not as much anymore, but the demand was there, and since then, we've been doing it, and it has grown. So I appreciate y'all for having us, and again, I'm very happy we're able to contribute to what is hopefully going to be the next version of the integrated warranty team with all sectors together.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Lanza. From what I heard from David, Texas is big. And we are just part of it. We're down in the Houston area, covering Houston, Texas, the fourth largest city in the country. So my path to this whole thing has been weird and kind of fun. I started off as a broadcast meteorologist out of college. After about 5 years of doing that in upstate New York, where I saw more snow than I needed to, I took a job in the energy industry. And have been there ever since. So I've been, I've bounced around from a few different jobs across energy, now settling in Houston, where I work for the major utilities. Started there back in November after an interesting year of some interesting weather in Houston. Anybody that's in Houston knows about that. That's my primary job. So the interesting thing is that this whole ability to talk about weather and communicate weather has just kind of evolved over time for me. When I was in TV, we actually started one of the first weather blogs that kind of existed at that time. This is back when blogging was still kind of a what? It was a new word. I'm dating myself, but it was successful for what it did. For a little niche community in upstate New York that really, needed snow as part of the economy and needed to understand how snow and weather was going to impact things. And I always kind of kept that urge to keep communicating publicly, not just internally as a meteorologist in the energy industry. So after a few years in Houston, I had heard from the science writer at the Houston Chronicle, Eric Berger. He wrote a weather blog and was looking for a little assistance. And through a mutual friend, we got connected and I started helping him out a little bit. He left the Houston Chronicle back in 2015, so 10 years ago, and he said, hey, we've got a pretty good following already. Why don't we just keep it and do our own thing? And sure, let's do it. And we started Space City Weather basically as happenstance. So Space City Weather was started 10 years ago, and it serves as essentially our whole mantra is no hype. And basically what we're doing is we are like the antithesis of what would normally get you engagement and views. We are trying to be boring most of the time, frankly, until the you-know-what hits the fan, and then we turn it up. And we know that people will know that based on the word choices we use, the way we explain things. They'll see, oh, they don't use these words very often. This must be serious. Because in Houston, it could flood on a day that ends in Y. It doesn't matter. So separating the days with it is just nuisance street flooding from the days that you should stay home is not always that simple. And I think we sort of fill a little bit of a niche for people that want to read about the weather, want to see it a little bit differently, and do it that way. So we've done that for 10 years. After Hurricane Harvey, it became kind of a big thing, to put it quite frankly. We created our own flood scale back in 2019 after Tropical Storm Imelda because we wanted our readers to understand, hey, this is a level of flooding that you should be concerned about at this point. And that actually prompted a call from the National Weather Service being like, hey, we just want to make sure we're aligned. And we'd already had a good relationship with them. But I thought it was a really nice example of where we could work together to make sure we're not treading on their water, pun intended, and we're able to provide something of value to our readers without being belligerent and going rogue. And we actually furthered it this year by doing a partnership with the University of Houston neuropsychology department to make the flood scale actually rooted in science and understanding and using word choices that were acceptable in scientific literature, not just something we came up with on our own. So, we've had a very fortunate relationship with the NWS in Houston that they've been very supportive of what we've done. They included us on their IWT pretty much from day one. And I want to be able to sort of share those results with people and explain, where the benefit is and how we are really just trying to help each other and across the market, just help everybody to kind of understand weather. We've taken our success, we're trying to sort of grow it a little bit further. We started a site called the iWall a couple years ago to talk about tropical stuff and not to replace the local meteorologists, but to sort of bridge that gap between the national viewpoint and the local viewpoint for folks to understand, kind of again in that no hype mantra of how things go. And it's just been nice to get support from the National Weather Service for what we do, and hopefully we can share some good advice and tips with everyone today. So thanks for having us.
All right, hello. My name is Max Velocity. I'm also named Max Schuster, in case you guys don't know my actual name. My story is kind of interesting. I mean, I feel like I'm kind of like a typical broadcast story where I get into weather when I was 3 years old. I watched the Weather Channel growing up. That was what I basically did instead of watching cartoons, was watching the Weather Channel. And I would pretend as if I was the TV meteorologist, would put my hands up and, basically pretend I'm a meteorologist on TV. And then when I turned 10 years old, I was invited to a weather camp that was called the Blue Hill Observatory Camp. It's in Massachusetts, and it was only for high school and college students. I was still in late elementary school when I was invited to that, and I was there for 7 days, met a bunch of meteorologists, basically practiced on the green screen with meteorologists like Tim Kelly and Danielle Niles. And then later on in my life, I met somebody named Harvey Leonard around when I was 12, 13 years old, and I basically shadowed him a couple times during the summers. And Harvey Leonard is a very popular meteorologist at WCVB in Boston, and that's really where my interest for broadcast weather spiraled, and I was really interested in getting into the weather, and that's literally what my career path is going to be. I knew it was going to be weather really since I was born, basically. As I went to high school, I began a page called North Texas Weather Center. It had a few different names before that, but it was a Facebook page, and during the 2019-2020 timeframe was when COVID happened, and I didn't have much to do during COVID, as many of you probably didn't have much to do either. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start really getting into weather, and so I basically began this page and really started to put a lot more time into it. I was doing daily videos. I was going live for big severe weather events in North Texas, which is like the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And after that, in 2022, after a lot of growth happened, I think we went from like a few thousand followers up to like 20, 30,000 followers, I decided to expand to YouTube, and that is when I started to do just weather coverage for North Texas on YouTube in 2022. And very quickly, it turned into a nationwide channel. It was not meant to be nationwide by any means, but I had people coming into my chat saying, oh, I'm in Oklahoma, can you do my weather? I'm like, all right, sounds good. And then somebody was like, I'm in Kansas. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm expanding to Kansas. And then it just kept expanding from there. And obviously today it is a very different story. We were only at maybe a couple thousand subscribers in 2022 during the summer. We're now at 1.35 million subscribers on just YouTube. And obviously the growth has been substantial, especially over the last year. And I think one of the biggest things that has come out of what we've seen over the last few years is that social media is blowing up with weather, news, basically everything. And I do think that the weather space on YouTube is only going to keep growing, and there is a lot of potential for any other people that are currently in meteorology, currently studying meteorology at college, to dive into that space, because it is a very niche space, but there are not very many people doing it yet. Obviously, one of the biggest things that I am most passionate about is the impact that we bring when it comes to our live streams and also our videos, basically preparing people for what is to come for the day ahead, and then going live when there's a big weather event happening. And basically what I want to be able to convey is that whenever there is a tornado on the ground, you need to take it seriously, and that is how we've been able to basically save a lot of lives this year, is through our weather coverage. We have tons of storm chasers on our live streams. We have commercial-free coverage on YouTube, which is a big difference from current traditional media, is that there are commercials on TV, and sometimes the weather coverage isn't happening right before tornadoes entering into a town. So we really want to be able to basically get that information out there as quick as possible, and basically bring the impact and be able to help people that are being impacted by deadly storms. And that goes not just with severe weather, but it also goes with hurricanes, it goes with winter storms, and a lot of other things. So really the biggest thing is that we want to be able to save lives in a very efficient way, and YouTube has been able to allow us to do that.
Hello, thanks for having me. My name's Will Minkoff with Nashville Severe Weather. How we started about 16 years ago. My former partner, David Drobny, started a Twitter account not long after Mike Gibson launched GR, and we kind of started out as something that our friends would text us and say, hey, what's the weather going to do today? Is it really going to storm? That got to be a little bit cumbersome, so we started a Twitter account, and Twitter was fairly new. We then, have over the last 16 years grown that into something that is, I guess, no longer really a startup, but at least in our market, a force for local weather information. How our operation works and what we do. There are three main goals for Nashville Severe Weather. The first is to communicate weather impacts for Davidson and Williamson County. We only cover 2 counties in Middle Tennessee. How weather is going to impact kids' soccer practice or a birthday party in the backyard. We do live coverage for severe and winter weather and a daily forecast blog. Our second goal is to increase the resolution of reports to the National Weather Service. We do that through a program called T-Spotter. So if someone in our community has a tree down in their backyard, they can go on Twitter, take a picture of it, send us their location, use hashtag T-Spotter. We take those in, quality control them, and then put them in NWS chat. The third goal that we have at Nashville Severe Weather is to improve weather science for Middle Tennessee. What does that mean? Well, we have been fortunate enough that we don't run ads, we don't have sponsors, we are kind of like NPR in that respect, I guess. We, first of all, don't want a boss telling us what we have to say and not say. I have a wife and a boss, so I'm gonna do whatever I want when it comes to weather. But we also, like Max said, we don't put ads up on YouTube. We want people to be able to access our content very, very quickly. And when we started collecting donations, we're community funded, so people donate to us either monthly or one time. We use those dollars to reinvest in weather science in Middle Tennessee. We have a weather balloon program. We have cameras up all over the place. We have drones that we use to help the National Weather Service in tornado damage surveys. If they can't cross a farmer's field because they don't have permission, they're not allowed to use a drone, they can call us and we show up and fly that damage path for them and send them video of it. So communicating weather hazards, better reports to the Weather Service, and improving weather science, those are the three things we really focus on.
All right, hey, my name's Ryan Hall. I run Ryan Hall Y'all on YouTube and several other platforms, and my story is probably pretty similar to a lot of people in this industry. At some point, at a very young age, I was bit by the weather bug, and I have been obsessed with it ever since. It's the only thing that there is no world where I was going to do something other than be in the weather industry. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And I also was bit by another bug at a young age, and that is just the internet, live streaming, YouTube. I didn't watch a lot of cartoons either, but when I did watch something other than the Weather Channel, it was YouTube videos, YouTubers, vloggers, streamers, and stuff like that. And those two interests have just kind of combined over time. I started my channel, Ryan Hall Y'all, on YouTube a little over 4 years ago as a hobby. I thought, I'm a weather nerd. Let's talk about the weather. Let's show the crazy GFS runs and stuff on YouTube and try to attract other weather nerds and have some fun. And that's what it started off as, and that's what it was for a while until the Mayfield tornado in 2021 in Western Kentucky. We decided we were going to try to do some live streams as well to look at the radar scans and be weather nerds and, talk about everything as it was happening. But what happened was way more than just weather nerds found us. We actually were the primary source of weather information for a lot of people in the town of Mayfield on that night. And I've heard so many stories from people who live there about how they attribute their safety and their lives to our coverage. And when I started hearing those stories, I realized that this is more than just a hobby of somebody talking about weather models and stuff to weather nerds. This is a way that we can really communicate life-saving information to a lot of people in a way that is different and maybe more accessible than traditional means. So since then, it's been my daily mission to figure out how to do that better and dedicate myself to it more. And that's what I spend every day thinking about, is how can we get more people to watch our stuff? How can we better effectively relay the messages and the forecast from the National Weather Service, the SPC, in a way that people can engage with it and understand it. And that's what we do every day. And one of the reasons I'm super happy to be here, I'm so excited to talk to all of you. But one of the things that I hope that we can do is bridge the gap between people on the digital side and the more traditional side. I want the broader weather world to recognize that digital meteorology is not on the fringe anymore. Millions of people use people like me as their primary and only source of weather information. And that's, take that as you will, and it comes with a lot of responsibility, and it means that the traditional enterprise has to think about us not as outsiders, but as colleagues. And I think that if we can accomplish that, it's going to be better for everybody involved.
Thank you all so much for those welcoming introduction comments. I want to just really quickly add with what you all were saying. I heard themes of there are gaps that you're interested in filling with a heart for people, and not unlike everybody in this room. And you found ways to fill the gaps in geography. Several of you found markets where there was some underserved aspect based on the way the formal system has been set up. Just underrepresentation, for example, in Kentucky of having storm chasers. And you're really desiring to come into the community in that way. So a new kind of expertise is emerging. Can you tell us a little bit about, in your view, what makes somebody a very credible member of the digital meteorology community? If it looks different, if there are new dimensions that are emerging as you're engaging in the digital space to be effective there, and what do you think are some of the things you've had to surmount, some of the challenges to make your business models viable?
I guess we go down the road. I think that it's something that is very important, that there are people who still and will always watch television for weather information. There are people who are watching the internet for weather information, and acknowledging and saying, okay, both aspects are equally important is something that needs to be done. How can we, and to answer Kim's question, I think you've got to have, number one, integrity and character to maintain a level of professionalism and working well with others. Not just to say, I'm going to live in my world and my world only. You have to reach out. You have to say, okay, I want to get to know my local NWS office. I want to get to know my local EMA director. We've done that, and I'll tell you, I could call the EMA directors in my coverage area right now and say, I've got a flat tire in Huntsville, Alabama, and they would be on the way to help me. These people are hungry for a relationship with you and with us. And I think to create a level of industrial professionalism, it starts with that relationship. And let y'all build on that, but at least that's my opinion with it. That's what we've done, and I think it works very well. We have great relationships with our NWS offices. We have Nashville, Huntsville, and Memphis that we work with, and it's vital that they know if they need something, they can pick up a phone and call me and get me right here. The EMA director yesterday, one of them was texting me questions. I was at the conference, and in the middle of it, I'm having to, I'm kind of on a panel right now. Can I call you back? But it's that kind of relationship. And that's where the answer to Kim's question, I think it starts there. And then you just let it flourish from there.
I can't phrase it any better myself, so I'm not going to try, honestly. All I'm going to say is it's about being a member of the community you're serving. I can't sit here and be talking about someone across the country. I have to be someone actually there. Even if I'm not there physically, I have to be part of the community. July, we had the floods in Texas. At least 135 people died. We were busy for weeks after, our company not only posting about the continuation of additional precipitation and the issues that arose from that, but helping to calm folks down that had PTSD, were scared to death almost. And we've dealt with a lot of that over the last decade, whether it be from tornado events, the 2021 Freeze-Mageddon, the number of tropical systems, and now hydrometeorological events from this summer. So we're there before, during, and after the event, like y'all in the traditional community, those of you in the weather service, and of course, those of you working in the public safety sector. So that's just my addition to that. You know, it's not just before, during, but it's there being after the event as well, helping a community recover and, you know, rebuild. And I know several of my counterparts up here have formed nonprofits that help with that. So.
I'll come at this two ways, and I think number one is to be considered, credibility is earned, right? You're earning it through your audience, and you're earning it by them turning to you and returning to you to see that you're a trusted source of information. And we're living in a world today where the media landscape is fractured as could be. There is a record lows lack of trust in institutions, including the media to some extent, rightly or wrongly, whatever the causes or whatever that is, it doesn't matter. That's what the numbers tell us. And the broadcast meteorologist still remains fairly trustworthy, but there's a lot of people that have, they've unplugged, they've cut the cord, they've moved on. And to be able to reach them where they are requires a diverse way of doing it. And it's not just, posting TikTok videos or posting things on Instagram and posting on, every one of the 75 different platforms that exists, but it's engaging in a way that is very engaging to the viewer, but comes at them with empathy. Like, I'll echo what David just said, like, after Harvey, like, we had people in Houston that were just freaked out anytime it rains, and to some extent, they still are. And we've got to recognize that, and we've got to calm them down and be that trusted person that they can come to be like, okay, I don't need to worry. I can, this is normal. This is what happens here. This is not going to wipe my house away, or something like that. And so I think it's just so important to have that connection with your audience. And whether that's as a traditional broadcast meteorologist or what some of those up here are doing, and they do it well, it works. And for us in the Weather Enterprise, it's important to recognize that we all have the same goal. We all want to reach the maximum number of people with the best information possible. So we need to work together and make sure that we, like I said, we were very lucky in Houston that NWS adopted us right away. It's not like that everywhere. It needs to be like that everywhere. That's just how it is. It's 2025. It's not 2000 anymore. So we got to get with the program and recognize how things are changing. And I think we're getting there, but we still have a ways to go.
Yeah, and I agree with what everybody's saying up here. I think one of the biggest things, too, is building your community. And obviously, for all these people, they're much more local, like Texas, we got Tennessee, like those are local environments. For me, it's a little bit more challenging because it's nationwide weather. It's not necessarily one area that we're talking about. It's a bunch of areas that we're talking about. And so building credibility, I think, just kind of comes along with building your community. Like, the people that trust you are going to recommend you to other people, and that usually is a good thing. If you're getting getting recommended from friends and family to watch my streams or anybody else's, that's a good thing. You're building a community, and I think that's one of the most important things. I think another important thing too for the future generation of weather people is to still strive to get a degree in meteorology. I am a degreed meteorologist. I literally just graduated in May of this year at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University with a bachelor's in meteorology. I think one of the most important things too is to have that level of credibility as well, where you're also learning things, because I mean, honestly, I would not be anywhere near the level I am at when it comes to weather knowledge if I didn't go to college. There's tons of things that you learn. So I do want to emphasize for anybody in the audience that might be thinking about going to college or already is in college, continue to grind at it. It is 100% worth it. I mean, I literally ran max velocity this entire time being full-time college too. So I think that it's very important that you do strive to do that. But I do think the biggest thing is building a community that trusts you.
Yeah, I'll tell you a couple stories about credibility. It was a long, hard road for us to get credibility, not only with the local emergency management community in our area, with our colleagues in the media in our area, and also, you know, with this organization, believe it or not. I received the Walter J. Bennett Public Service Award from NWA in 2016, and I remember standing up on this stage and feeling like, boy, now I really do have credibility with this group because we're doing weather on the internet, and they obviously think we're doing a really good job. It wasn't always like that. I remember very clearly getting denied access to NWS chat several times. Tom Johnstone can tell you a story about that. When he comes up, he was the WCM that denied it, and now he works with us. So things can certainly come full circle, right? I remember sitting in a room not unlike this room, or I remember sitting in a room in Emergency Operations Center and having an emergency manager from the large metropolitan city that we work in tell us that he didn't think what we were doing was worth a flip and we shouldn't be at this table. And I've had other emergency managers come and ask us to come teach them how we do what we do, how they can use GR the way we do, how they can read models the way we do. So, you know, I see him in the audience. I have Mike Farrar's phone number in my phone, right? And can call and ask questions about NSEP products and stuff like that. And it wasn't always like that. The credibility path was a long, hard-fought one for us. If you're looking at a digital meteorology outlet and wondering whether they have credibility or not, my only barometer for that is how much hype they put on stuff, right? If they're showing the 87th hour of a GFS run and saying that this is what's going to happen, you know right away that that's probably not someone that you want to talk to. And when we have folks in other counties that surround Davidson and Williamson County that want to do what we do for their own county, and there's about a dozen of them, the first thing we tell them is, hey, just do your thing, we're going to watch. Because you can tell in what they say and how they say it, whether or not they know what they're talking about or they're a credible and trustworthy person. So just watch what they say and you'll know whether or not it's somebody that you want to, you know, partner with or share information with.
As far as credibility goes, I think something that we all need to do is start giving the audience and the general public just a little bit more credit. You know, if you go out and you talk to people, a lot of them are kind of smart, you know. Not all of them are, but a lot of them are. And you're not going to, you know, in a very competitive space that this is, I don't think that you're going to have the reach that you need to really disseminate life-saving information by being misleading too often, by being somebody who is not credible or has bad intentions. And I know this for a fact because there are a lot of people who are trying. There's a lot of people who are trying very hard to replicate what I do, and they're doing it in a very wrong way, and it's not working out. Now, every once in a while, you'll see a TikTok that goes viral about a Category 6 hurricane you know? But like we all laugh at that and then it kind of goes away a little bit afterwards. Now that's a problem and like we do need to figure out how to navigate that, and I would love to be a part of that conversation. I don't have all the answers. But yeah, I think one of the things that we've got to do is give the majority of the general public a little bit more credit on who they decide to get their information from.
As the social scientist here on the panel, I'll reinforce that last point. I see it time and time again too. And I think what you guys are all articulating is that you have developed through those relationships a respect for the populations that you're serving and an understanding that is valuable. So we'll, I think, maybe be wrapping this panel with one last question that's come to us from the audience. As you guys are thinking about your models of providing service, do you have partnerships with TV stations to complement your coverage? What do those relationships look like?
That's a real good question. I think for us, I've got obviously several friends in both markets that are sitting in this room right now that I, not just friends, colleagues, but still people that I look up to, that I, grew up watching or spent several hours watching that influenced the style and even the business that I have now. And on more than one occasion, if I've got something and they need it, then more than likely I'm going to do what I can to get that to them, especially viewer photos, anything like that. I'm going to send because it does the general public no good if you sit in a sandbox and you keep all your toys to yourself. Everything that I've got goes to the National Weather Service in real time. They are the people that press the button. I acknowledge that. I love that. From weather radars to camera networks to spotters, and they have their budget set, and I don't care if they're not paying for it. I want them to have it. Anything like that, absolutely. Everything that broadcast has, make sure your local NWS office has access to it. They can see it. Whatever way, however way, make it possible for them. They're the people that press the button to send the warnings, the watches, etc. They need that information. And so, but as far as TV goes, I think everybody knows my phone number gets shared around a lot. So yeah, call me. I don't care. We'll do what we can, absolutely.
We, at my company, have operated under a philosophy that's a two-way street. We, or me specifically, were part of an initial experiment beginning in the fall of 2012 that concluded in late 2023, over 10 years. I was in NWS chat, not a broadcast met, not academia, not public safety sector. And let me tell you, when that first started, a lot of emergency managers and broadcast mets were not happy. They thought, oh, here's some social media guy. He's going to leak all the information and stuff. But guess what? Even before I started doing live coverage on the internet and after, all the reports we'd get, hail, snow, damage, anything in between that, right into NWS chat for the integrated warning team. I don't think of broadcast traditional media as competitors. We complement. And one of the benefits I have is, when I'm getting to nerd out, sitting in my fancy little chair with 12 monitors around me because I'm a computer nerd and like to build things, those reports I get in from Twitter, Facebook, our own app, would go right into Weather Service chat to help complement the integrated warning team in that process. That ended with NWS Chat 2 when Slack came out because of a national mandate that something about limited account space or whatever, we weren't allowed on. And we're still not, for what it's worth. So that's a tool I think that we were able to contribute and give back to the sector that's no longer in place. But no, I have no issues. We have 10 storm chasers, Texas storm chasers. We still have folks that storm chase. Those reports would go straight into NWS chat, even if it was outside of Texas, because, well, my chasers like to chase everywhere. So, yeah, no, not proprietary, nothing like that. We are a complementary source of information. I don't think of y'all as competitors in the sense that I would keep information from you. That does no good if we're all really here to do good for the general public.
So the answer on our part is no, and I think 10 years ago, if you had asked any of the broadcast meteorologists in Houston about us, we'd probably been like, who are these clowns? And that's fair. Now today it's different, and today it's actually kind of interesting. I've got a very good relationship with a number of the broadcast meteorologists personally and professionally in the Houston area, and we haven't done anything formal, but we have been approached on a couple of occasions about things. So I think the tide has changed a little bit, but like my philosophy has never been that we're not really competing, because we're just in a totally different niche. We're not on screen. Like we're sending a forecast every morning. I mean, how many of y'all were kids growing up, and particularly if you lived in snow country, and I grew up outside Philadelphia. I wanted to see what Channel 10 said, Channel 6 said, Channel 3 said. How much snow am I getting? I shopped around. People shop around for weather information. Like that is one thing I have learned. We'll get questions about other people's forecasts, and they shop around for this stuff. They want to know what the breadth of views are because they're curious and they like weather. So from that perspective, I think that's kind of colored it as, us viewing it not as, competition per se, but we're just doing something different in the market, and we're happy to work with anybody that wants to work with us. And I think that's shown up in how we treat NWS chat, how we treat IWTs in Houston. It's just, we're just different, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is like, obviously news stations do find things like, local networks and even, nationwide networks like myself a threat, because we are, growing into a medium that they haven't really been able to figure out yet. And so I think one of the biggest problems when it comes to working together is exactly that. They think we are competition. They don't really think we have credibility, even though I think all of us up here have good credibility. Like we all have an audience that we've grown, and we have, basically a really tight-knit community that does trust us for our weather information. And one of the most important things, I think, for anybody in the audience and anybody that watches weather coverage is that you have to trust who you are watching. And a lot of people have steered away from cable and are now coming onto social media. Doesn't mean news networks should go anywhere, because I think news networks are extremely important, especially for local communities. They provide a really important resource for people that live in areas that are prone to severe weather, winter storms, whatever it might be. So I really think the biggest thing is that I feel like we should all be working together, because we all have the same goal, and that is to save lives and to keep people safe from significant severe weather events or whatever weather event might take place.
I'll say this, we do not have any kind of relationship with any local TV station. I am fortunate enough to count Henry Rothenberg, Leland Statham, Lisa Spencer as friends, colleagues. They have a very difficult job to do, and I respect them quite a lot. I'm also happy that there hasn't been some conniving local weather producer that has said, don't get your weather from amateurs on the internet, get it from our degreed AMS SEAL certified meteorologists. Because I really thought that was what was going to happen when we started doing YouTube, and I'm super glad to hear that it hasn't. But I think kind of what Matt said, we do something different, right? First of all, we only cover 2 counties, right? So the size and scope of it is way different for us. Second of all, in terms of collaboration, everything we do is with a servant's heart and an open hand. If we launch a supplemental balloon for the Weather Service, which is something that we often do, we're going to put that SKU-T right into chat right away. We're not holding on to it for ourselves. If we have photos, if we have videos, if we have firsthand accounts, we'll share that with everybody. I don't want any of our information to be paywalled or embargoed from a local TV station using it. And so far, so good, right? Like we have good relationships with all the chief meteorologists in our area, and we're real thankful for that.
This one work? Okay. We've got no relationship with local TV networks or anything like that, but I'm very much open to it. One thing that I've found about my style of coverage that's really frustrating during big events, since we're trying to cover the whole nation, is we'll have a tornado warning in Arkansas or something like that, and we'll talk about that for 5, 10 minutes. And a lot of people that live there that are watching us are like hanging on my every word. And then boom, there's another tornado in Illinois. And I've got to go. Yeah, I've got to leave all these people behind to go talk about Illinois for 5, 10 minutes. Now we've got people pouring in from Illinois, calling their family members. Hey, this guy's on YouTube. You should go watch him. He's doing a really good job of covering our area. And then as soon as they get on there, I got to go back to Arkansas because those guys are still waiting on me. And I imagine there's a world where there can be some collaboration there where when I have to leave one area and go to another, we can throw it to somebody. That's just one of the things that comes to mind. So we don't have any relationships like that, but definitely open to it. The only reason why I feel like we haven't, and I haven't started those conversations because I didn't want to impose. Same thing with like NWS chat. We're not in there, and I don't know how to get in there. And I don't know what I do. Do I say, hey, have you guys seen how many subscribers I have on YouTube? Like, you know what I mean? So like we definitely want to be a part of it. We're just working on trying to figure out how to get in there.
Wow, that's a perfect segue to our second panel. Can we let's have a round of applause for all of our panelists. Thank you. So we're keeping some of you. We'll be keeping Ryan, Max, and I believe, and Matt, yes? Yes. Or you're still here. David, all right. Always do. All right, and we're going to be bringing in also some folks from the formal integrated warning team as it stands today. From the National Weather Service, we have our Office of Communications represented, Erica Groche, who also has a background as a broadcast meteorologist herself in large TV markets. We'll have Ashley Morris from Prince George's County, Maryland, Emergency Management. We're welcoming Tom Johnstone from Nashville Severe Weather. And we're going to have a man who needs likely no introduction, James Spann from ABC 3340, and now the newly launched Alabama Weather Network. Please welcome all of our new panelists. The purview of this panel is to pick up the conversation that began in the last and to think about where do we need to go from here? What are some of the challenges we should look to tackle if we're going to integrate better? And what have the experiences been of our folks on the panel, either if you're part of the established IWT, have you worked with digital meteorologists in the past? You know, sort of what is that relationship from your point of view? If you're a digital meteorologist, tell us more about if you've tried to get in, like Ryan, you were just talking about. Is there a pathway in? Or are you sitting there waiting to be let in and just not wanting to impose? Let's talk about it. And I'd love to start with Erica.
Thanks, Kim. And I've been taking a lot of notes during this conversation, and I think that my role here is mostly to listen. But a couple things that I wrote down that I wanted to make sure that we addressed is the folks that are up here and the other digital Mets that are in the room. How do you differentiate yourself from the social mediaologist, right? Those folks who do put out the 14-day GFS and say that there's going to be a blizzard 2 weeks from now. And another thing is with this, the lines getting blurred between TV and digital, because any folks in here who are broadcasters, you are getting asked to put out digital content every single day. The folks who do digital are putting out more and more video content. Is it productive that those lines are getting blurred? Or do you think that it's important for there to be differentiation between those two things? And then as representative of the Weather Service, I currently head up our public affairs for the Weather Service. What do you want us to do differently with our products? I really, really want to know this question, and everyone in the audience too. If you have ideas for us, please bring them to me, nws.pa for public affairs at noaa.gov. Please email me. I know my inbox is already pretty stuffed, but I will respond to you. I want to know what you're thinking. And I hope it's okay that I ended up just basically answering your question with a question. Okay.
I'm sorry, Kim, one more time. I wanted to respond to her, so give me your question, or I'm going.
It's all right, David. I deserve that for saying, "Oh yeah, you're leaving. Bye, David." And you're
Yeah,
like, "No,
well,
wait,
it's
no,
always
no,
David,
I've
right?
I'm not leaving." Okay, so the question is about what do you think we need to tackle to move forward from here to make this truly an integrated warning team with the digital meteorology side considered?
Okay, thank you for fixing my ADD brain. Look, I know we're up here, we've been talking a lot, but really this is an interactive forum. This is going to likely be the first of what I believe will be many meetings here. This is a how do ya sort of thing from us. I want to hear from y'all too. And trust me, I know it is not going to be all flowers and joy. I know there are tough issues to talk about, right? On both sides of the fence here per se, but the key is I'd like to see us both come to the fence, both groups, all the groups, and work together going forward into the next decade as the lines do become more blurred, right? As, broadcast transitions into more digital and, we essentially mix this all up. So that's what I'd like to see, optimistically.
All right, so I guess for me, I am, as everybody knows, a local level emergency manager. So I work in disaster preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation. And one of our biggest challenges always is just getting information out to the public before the threat, during the threat, and then of course in that recovery period where we're trying to get access to resources and the ability to rebuild these people's lives to them. And as a professional disaster manager, it is not easy. It's not easy to always understand if you're going to be able to get relief from government sources or not. It's not always easy to be able to decipher or receive that information, especially if you don't understand the government structure, local, state, federal, all of those things. And so from my perspective, I really want to see us engage with this realm of meteorology and weather information so we can make partnerships. I also want to see us talk to each other and make collaboration and work on what that looks like. I would say in like the past 6 to 8 months that I've kind of really opened my eyes to the streaming game. I've watched streams from everybody up here, and it's really entertaining to see how engaging they can be with these community members and these folks who are following them. I know earlier in Texas, there were some EOCs that actually have David in their EOC live, watching that on top of also media and NWS chat and everything else. And so I think it's a resource that we really haven't seen yet, or we haven't really come to that conclusion point that we can use them. And then in my side of the business, like, we're losing a lot of public trust in institutions, right? So for me, I'm trying to get all of this information out to the public about disaster recovery or response and all of that. And maybe I'm not necessarily trusted, right, as a government official or anything like that, but David is, Max is, Ryan is, right? And I don't necessarily need it to come from me. I just want people to know exactly what they need to do, how they can get their resources and things like that. And so there's a lot of power in these folks' ability to make relationships with people, but build the trust as well. And also hopefully demystify the disaster process. Again, how can you make insurance claims? How can you get recovery processes? What's going to be covered, what's not? So it is definitely an interest, and I think an area that we really need to look at in emergency management of trying to do more community outreach through these folks, alert system awareness, how people are signing up for emergency alerts in different communities. Also, just working on emergency management awareness in general. How does it work? especially as we might see changes in the system coming forward. So that's all I have. Thank you.
I think one of the biggest challenges that we all have up here is that there is a big blockade right now between TV and digital, and I think one of the biggest reasons why is because digital is just so new, and there's different levels of credibility. There are social meteorologists that don't know what they're talking about. There's also real meteorologists. There's real people that know what they're talking about on the weather space on digital, but obviously there is an overarching gap there because TV, for example, there are usually 3 or 4 main networks, and they all have their own journalists, they have their own meteorologists, and all that sort of stuff. And so I think one of the biggest challenges that we basically have is that there's this big blockade between who's credible and who's not. And with how new the digital space is with weather, I think it's going to be a little bit of a hurdle initially, but I think with our collective audiences of millions of followers or subscribers, we have big audiences. We have people that rely on us on a daily basis and even for live coverage that need that type of information. And I think having access to the National Weather Service chat is a big deal. It's going to be able to help us communicate to our viewers and the people that need that weather information exactly what is happening and exactly what we need to basically communicate to those people that desperately need that information.
Hello. Yeah, I want to thank Will, first of all, for throwing me under the bus a few minutes ago as it relates to the genesis of Nash Severe Weather and T-Spotter. It's an interesting story. But I think it ends with a very active and successful IWT in Middle Tennessee. David Drobny and Will, they approached me initially via a chat application, I think late 2011. And there really was no place in late 2011 for folks that were doing just Twitter, just social media. The term social meteorologist hadn't even been invented yet. So there really was no way that I could justify accepting that application. They persisted. I had David out for a meeting at my office. This is under the backdrop as a WCM and a warning coordination meteorologist in the Weather Service. You have a lot of folks that kind of come out of the woodwork, and they've got an idea for shooting rockets at tornadoes or some kind of electrification study that they want to do, or they come full of energy and enthusiasm, and then they're gone 2 weeks later, and you never hear from them again. So I brought them out and met with them, and I was intrigued. And so we were not going to give chat access, but I also wanted to find out more about what they were doing. So we followed them. I followed them. And for several months, there wasn't a lot of weather going on. And then one day, Trevor Boucher and I are teaching a interpreted weather spotter class to the deaf and hard of hearing group in Franklin, Tennessee, right along I-65. And right after we start talking, there's booms of thunder. Boom, boom. And we didn't think much of it. We continued our talk, and we got back to the office. And as we get back, we find out there was a significant flash flood at Cool Springs Mall across I-65, less than a mile from where we were. Cars floating, lots of destruction, nobody killed, thankfully, but there was never a flash flood warning issued. There was never a report issued to the National Weather Service until the sun was back out and the flooding was over. But David had the report. And so when I went back and looked at Twitter, looked at his followers in real time, there was the flooding happening. And I was like, whoa, we got to look at this, right? So I gave them chat access. That was the thing that tipped it for me, is we cannot ignore, we ignore at great peril this source of information, which in 2012, when this was happening, we didn't have Twitter in the National Weather Service yet. This was really new. So, but we allowed them in. But what I decided to do, instead of just giving them chat access, was to, at the time, we didn't use the IWT term either. This was before that. But I ingrained them into our media, took them around to our TV stations, included David and Will in our media workshops, took them around to our emergency management in Williamson and Davidson County. These guys are with us. These are not guys going off doing their own thing. They're not going to make their own warnings. They're not going to give their own opinions. They're not meteorologists. They're going to localize the National Weather Service content, engage with the National Weather Service meteorologists, and that's how they're going to operate. So that's how it started. I left the National Weather Service in Nashville in 2014 to go manage the Corpus Christi Weather Office. After I left, it grew into something I never could have imagined. So it's been really cool. I retired after 33 years in the National Weather Service this February. They were gracious enough to let me help them out when I came back. So I feel like they feel like having a 33-year veteran meteorologist joining their group gives them a little bit of credibility that they didn't have before. And I like that. I enjoy that. They're an amazing group of volunteers. David Drobny, who started it, he stepped away. We were some really good comments earlier about PTSD and emotional. The March tornadoes in 2020 in Nashville really affected him deeply because people died, and he felt like he could have done more, even though he did everything he could have. So that's a real thing, and so that's what we're doing moving forward, and I'm looking forward to see where we go.
So most of our interaction is indirect. I feel like we do a really good job of amplifying National Weather Service warnings, SPC outlooks, and WPC outlooks and stuff. In fact, if anybody's interested, I've got a little case study with some cool graphs and stuff that actually shows the growth of my channel alongside search terms for stuff like hatched risk and day 3 SPC outlook. And they correlate very well. There's a big increase in interest in these things. And I think that, once again, we're kind of highlighting them in a way without like putting our own branding on them either. Like, we're just showing the SPC outlooks and stuff to people who otherwise would never have interacted with them or ever seen them. So I think that we would love to have more interaction. Every once in a while, WFO will reach out to us and thank us for the help with the reach that we're able to get. But for the most part, we don't have a lot of interaction right now. What I'd love to see is formalized communication lanes, whether that's joint briefings during high-end events, structured relationships between WFOs and large digital outlets, or something as simple as more frequent calls with key players. And I think that'll be a good start to making everything better for everybody.
Hey, is Ryan Vaughn still here? Where you at? I love what you said. I feel the same way. I'm going to make somebody mad, but I don't care. In my old age, I don't care. We have to do the right thing. So everybody, and listen, it's amazing to have this group of people together in the same room at the same time talking, all right? This is important, and I think this will lead to tangible action that's going to make the warning process better. We can't solve everything right now, like who gets on the chat and all this other stuff, but there's one universal problem we have in this room. One universal problem. What is it? Everybody in this room, I don't care who you work for, we have a universal problem. False alarms, excess hyperbole, and fear-mongering. I don't know what's crept into the weather enterprise, but it's an epidemic. I don't understand that. A lot of people think that you have to scare people to get people to watch your news on the TV or to watch your YouTube channel, subscribe, follow you on Facebook. No, that's not right. I don't understand that. We don't have to scare people. This excess hyperbole stuff. A lot of you in this room, you've come to me privately. Your bosses have mandated that you declare once a week a code red weather emergency, first action, first alert, first warn, high impact, stick your head between your legs day. It's ridiculous. For nothing. Gosh. And it's not you. It's your overlords in the corporate world. It is. I mean, you're going to call a code red emergency for a foggy morning, or the temperature dropped 7 degrees, or it rained in somebody's backyard. No, we got to fight back against that. And the false alarms. Let me give you one example. Kim, I'm sorry. I'm taking this down the tubes. I'm sorry. Well, give me 1 more minute. One more minute.
No, you're being nice to me about it.
One more minute. So let me give you an example of what this group can do all together. So in 2011, most of you know that we had a rough day in my state. In one day, we had 62 tornadoes and 252 people died. Inexcusable for anybody in this room. On my watch, one day, 252 people died. And we got together as an integrated warning team, Kim, this type of group, and we decided we got some problems. One of the problems we noticed was a high false alarm ratio. And if you're in the weather service and if you get all PO'd, I'm sorry, but what I'm telling you is true. Kevin Laws is the SOO, the SOO in Birmingham. And what he did, he took that IWT and he went back and started a new warning program. And at the time in 2011, the FAR in Birmingham was running at about 0.83. 83% of all tornado warnings were false alarms. That's ridiculous. We're better than that. We're better than that. And what they did, they went back to basic science. Kevin and his team with this program. What's the FAR right now, Birmingham? 38. I never thought it would be that good in my lifetime. What's the POD? 74. So we can improve all of this, and I'm hoping that what we can do here is start a conversation that will lead to tangible action and make it better for all of us. And I'll say one more thing and I'll stop, Kim, I promise.
Oh,
She's
no, no,
giving me
no.
the stink eye.
If you weren't going to
And-
say the word jamoke,
Yeah,
something's missing here,
no,
Stan.
I am a jamoke. So the deal is, I'm just telling you that I've got my toes dipped in both waters right now. I'm still the chief meteorologist of a Ron Burgundy TV newscast, okay? I got leather-bound books and my home smells of rich mahogany, all right? But at the same time, I'm the chief meteorologist of a digital entity called the Alabama Weather Network that started last month. And I'm so thankful for Sinclair, my company with the TV station. They worked with me to make it happen so I could do both. You cannot cut your way to success. You've got to innovate your way to success in a changing business model. But having my feet in both worlds, I'm appreciative of everything these guys do on the digital side. I am. Don't get your back arched and hate on these guys. Learn from them. People are consuming media in a different way. They are, and we have to change to reach people. All right, I'm sorry, I'm done.
Please. Preach. Preach, preach, preach. All right. This is the part where we're going to turn to you. You all have been listening to this. I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts, reflections. We have two folks with mics. I have one quick question that came in online to ask Ashley specifically about emergency management, but while we do that, feel free to raise your hands. We'll start getting the in-room queue, and this is where I will remind you, be charitable in your comments, your questions, and so on, foster the dialogue. Ashley, the question for you is, in the emergency management space, how do you and your colleagues manage interaction with digital folks when what they are putting out doesn't always line up with official Weather Service content?
I think that's a great question, and what I would say too is I don't think we've actually leveraged this yet. I think this is a very new opportunity. I know that some folks are kind of starting to experiment with talking to some of the streamers and folks about that, but I don't think we have a solution with that. I think maybe the next step would be what we're doing today. Let's get IWT together and bring them to the table so that we can talk about having unified messaging between everybody, or talk about how we can interface that and make sure that we're all on the same page.
Can I add something to that real quick?
Please.
I just want to add, so the National Weather Service in Nashville, Chrissy Hurley of the MIC, asked a couple of our group members to come out and talk to their staff at a staff meeting a couple weeks ago. And it was really good. They're looking for more engagement with all of their partners throughout the IWT enterprise with us. And we offered up. I said that we had an event in Nashville talking about false alarms. It was several weeks ago, actually back in April. A lot of false alarms. So many tornado warnings were issued for Davidson County. The tornado siren battery system failed. It was warning after warning after warning after warning. And we engaged the office and said, use us as a resource. Let's work together. Let's engage with each other. Let's get the reports. Let's provide a consistent message. If there's a warning or not a warning, we can message that, and then everyone's on the same page. And that went over well. And that's an outcropping of the IWT, I think. To really, it's not top down. It's a community of folks that are doing the best they can for the community in which we live in a warning environment. So that's what we discussed.
Thank you. Awesome. Oh, sorry. Are there, I know we've got a question, but are there more responses? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, okay. All right. Go ahead, Tracy. Hi, Aubrey.
Hi. Okay, so I'm Aubrey Urbanowitz, Chief Meteorologist in Harrisonburg, Virginia. For our streamers, have you guys thought about maybe if you're doing that national coverage for that tornado warning in Arkansas, you're having to bounce back to another one, a different state, a couple hundred miles away, pushing to the local TV stations as maybe an olive branch to work and build that relationship with some of the local broadcasters, and then you're not leaving your viewers hanging as you're kind of taking another warning in a different area. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, it's something that I've thought about a lot, and I'm completely open to it. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I think that it's a conversation that needs to be had because I feel it. I feel it in my soul whenever we have to leave those people. You know what I mean? And the thing is we're live long before the tornado warning's ever issued. A lot of the times we'll go live on an SPC high risk day at 11 a.m. Storms don't initiate till 4 p.m. We're just sitting there hanging out. And we'll have 50,000 people watching before there's a warning. And once the warnings start going out, usually wherever the first one is, we've got like a huge influx of people from that area that will watch us. And like I said earlier, we'll inevitably have to go somewhere else. And I would love to have a seamless way that makes sense. I don't want it to be confusing to send people to a more localized coverage whenever I have to do that. So it's something that would need to be fleshed out, and it would have to work, and it'd have to be efficient, but I want that to happen. I think that's important.
I mean, on my streams, I always encourage that, people have multiple ways to receive warnings. And I think one of the biggest things, and I reiterate this all the time on live streams, is that if you have a local TV network, especially on high-end days, you should have them on too, if you are able to. I think one of the challenges, though, is that a lot of people have been cutting cable over the last 10 years, and that is a challenge that some people can't get around. Now, there is innovation when it comes to news stations where they do have, weather apps that they are streaming to as well. Sometimes they have to log into a cable network. I've had to do that multiple times with lots of things that I watch online. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that, we have as streamers. I think me and Ryan both have this challenge where it's like, we're trying to communicate, hey, you can watch them, but like, obviously it's not always accessible to some of these people. But yeah, it's a big challenge. I mean, we had an event back in March that had 28 or 30 tornado warnings at one time. It's impossible for either of us to cover all 30 of those tornado warnings. We only can focus on the ones that are the most significant.
Did you have anything you want to add, David?
I'm not a national, so I can't specifically relate to that. But in Texas, we have 254 counties. And yeah, might as well be national, right?
They think they're their own nation.
And I think James and the Alabama Weather Network are going to have a similar challenge. And I can't wait to watch them. I'm fanboying here, but I mean, I've watched James since the late 2000s, back when I was in high school, so I still had hair. Clearly, I don't now. For that, we focus and give equal focus to each warning. Doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the DFW Metroplex, down in Fredericksburg, Texas, where y'all should go if you haven't been, by the way, or, the Panhandle, where we have more cows than people. That's what we're going to do. So that's what we do, at least on a more regional basis versus national.
There's a really interesting geography to all of this that could be its own whole panel. All right, Melissa.
One challenge I've been finding that came up this year when in St. Louis, when the tornado hit there back in May, and actually a friend of mine who works for FEMA, her name's Heather, has been there for the last 2 months working, it's that the sirens did not go off, and there's a lot of low-income people and a lot of people outdoors. How do we reach them better, especially when the sirens are not working? Because I know many, including James Spann, says, don't focus too much on the sirens, especially if you're indoors. And there may be people who can't afford to get like an internet system. How do we reach them to help get the warning out, especially in a situation where the sirens go off? Because like in the case of St. Louis, there's a lot of very low-income people in poverty that may not get the weather warnings very well.
Could see a variety of interpretations to that question, filling the gap for different populations. Go ahead.
I'm so glad, Max, that you mentioned that you like to make sure to mention to folks that they should have multiple ways to receive warnings, because that's something that we do at the Weather Service, every FO, every WCM, and then us in public affairs. I don't know what else to say, Craig, because, you have to have multiple ways to receive your warnings. And if you don't have a cell phone and the sirens aren't working and you don't have a television, what else would there be? Does anyone have any?
So here's my opinion. Let me just say this. I came from a low-income background. My father walked out when I was 7, didn't pay a dime of child support, me and my mom. I know what it's like to be broke, and a lot of you in here don't, and some of you do, and one way or the other, it's okay. But we have done a very poor job of reaching low-income people. You've got that right, because everybody in here can afford a weather radio. Everybody in this room, if you came all the way to Huntsville, you can afford a weather radio, but a lot of people I serve can't. And here's my opinion, and this is again going to make some people mad, but so what? The siren mentality is killing more people in my state than anything else. The notion that you're going to hear some magical World War II air raid siren in a house before a tornado. My opinion, take the stinking things down, burn them, use the money that you've been spending on upgrading and maintaining those things, and get weather radios for every low-income family in the county that you serve.
There's all these programs to disseminate smoke detectors, right? So it would be a very similar cost burden.
Any other comments, thoughts? Okay. Go ahead, Tracy.
Hi there, I'm Thomas Schwen. I'm an undergraduate student at the University of Missouri. I've heard a lot about the need for collaboration between traditional media, which is a place that I've dabbled in a bit, and digital media, which I've also dabbled in a bit. And I haven't heard any super concrete examples, so I'm just going to spitball something and I want your thoughts on it. So local media, they have knowledge of local markets like national coverage I don't think can replicate easily, and perhaps you disagree with me on that. But I do believe that, like Ryan and Max, you in particular have storm chasing networks that just aren't paralleled in local markets. You can get visuals on storms that local markets just can't a lot of the time. And so I'm wondering if perhaps having that local market value from the local meteorologists and the national networks that you can establish, I'm wondering if that's perhaps an avenue for collaboration that could be explored.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And there's a lot of stuff that we have that's like really cool and would be beneficial to a lot of people that I would be open with sharing. It's just a conversation that needs to be had. The next step is just talking more, I think. But we've got, like you said, a really awesome storm chaser network. We've got a really awesome nationwide camera network that we're working on with a bunch of different companies. In a couple of years, I think we're going to have an unbelievable amount of weather cameras all across the country, and I'm down to share it. We just need to figure out exactly how that works and all that good stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest challenge is that, nobody's really reached out to, essentially go about having that collaboration. I think the other thing is too, news networks are a little bit different from digital because news networks a lot of the time are hiring storm chasers. They're not necessarily contractually having them on. Every storm chaser that, we've ever used on the Max Velocity channel for the most part has their own sort of business. They're doing their own thing and they are getting multiple revenue sources. It's not just through a paycheck from a news station. So I think that's really the biggest challenge for them, and they're not necessarily going after some of those people that are just licensed out.
Yeah, and for me, we have several storm chasers. None of them are exclusive to me. You will see their feeds on Max's channel, Ryan's channel, and many of your local affiliate stations as well. So that is not something we are in the sense doing, making any sort of exclusive. So, we have chasers out. You talk to them and form those relationships with them. Use their footage because the purpose of what we're all doing is trying to get the word out. So, yeah.
I know that we're coming up on 4:30, but we did have a little bit of blessing from NWA to go just a little bit over. We're going to leave time to turn the room over for the 5 o'clock. But that said, I know I want to get at least one, maybe two more audience questions and then a final reflection from you guys before we go. Go ahead.
Hey y'all, my name is Jacob Weinbarger and I'm a senior at Mississippi State. So I was just wondering, y'all are probably getting a lot of pictures of, let's just say, severe weather coverage, and it's a tornado or tornado damage, which we know most people will respond better if they see a tornado or see a picture of damage than just looking at like a regular radar. And since y'all are involved a lot with the social media, they'll just have a viewer, whether it be DM you or whatever, give you a video of a tornado or a picture. How do you balance that while also giving out the information saying this is serious, do not risk your life while taking like a video of a tornado or something like that?
So on our channel, the biggest thing that we try to do is keep everything super current. We don't want to try to go back too far in the past, especially if it's not something that's significant. So the biggest challenge that sometimes happens is that there might not be a video of a tornado that's happening, but we can at least, see it on radar, or we at least have some other report from the National Weather Service that's been vetted and verified. So whenever we show photos or videos, it's usually within the last 5 or 10 minutes, and that at least gives people an indication of what they can expect. If they see a big nasty shelf cloud coming in, we basically can expect wind and, that sort of thing. If there's a wall cloud 5-10 minutes ago, it might still be relevant and there could be a tornado forming. So I think the biggest thing is keeping everything in that time. We don't try to play tornado videos back, 30 minutes after it happens, because at that point, there's no purpose. It's at that point just, people wanting to watch a tornado video, and it has no value at all to actually communicating the message of what severe weather is happening in real time.
What we do at Nash Severe is it's a constant encouragement and give and take with getting reports from the tens of thousands of people that are watching us during severe weather and interacting with us, and all that is instantly shared. So there's no holding back. If we get a report of hail, if we get a video of a tornado, if we get a wall cloud, we talk about it briefly and then we post it in NWS chat. So it's an instant sharing of the information we get. That's the whole reason we exist, to provide that to the community.
All right, Tracy, let's get one more audience question here.
Alex Forbes from Fox 5 here, and I think it might be a good, wrap-up thing. So I'm a broadcaster, and my $1 million question is, particularly for the streamers and maybe James as well, is what do you guys need from us? We can sit there and talk about, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that, but if we walk out of the room today and you guys in your mind are on the same page as us, what would that be?
I think just more conversation, just to open it up. Honestly, being here, this is awesome. And I think this is opening the door to a lot of stuff in the future. So we're already going in the right path here. And by the way, on the note of collaboration and like us having stuff that other people should have access to, we get a lot of pictures from people. Sometimes we'll have 100,000, 400,000 concurrent viewers. And we've set up a website where people can just very quickly send us a photo or a video of damage. And a lot of times we have the only reports of damage in a certain area for a long time. But all that is organized very neatly in an API endpoint for us. And my AI assistant YALLBot that I've been working on actually scores those photos. And it's this is a very important photo that everybody should know about. And I can give anybody who wants access to that. And we went live yesterday for up in the Northeast. It was a 5% tornado risk. And we had thousands of photos sent in. And I can't imagine what it's going to be like during the next big event. So yeah, just reach out.
I think the biggest thing when it comes to broadcasters like yourself is that I feel like right now we're in a weird point where obviously things are flipping to digital, and I feel like the best thing that you can do is make your own brand and basically expand on what you already do and keep perfecting it and basically build your audience. And I feel like that goes for literally anybody in broadcast. If you're in late high school, let's say you're in your first or second year of college, or even if you're near the end of college and you want to go into the broadcast field, I feel like you should try to go on social media and just see what you can do, because that's how I did it. I mean, I've been doing this for 10-15 years. I didn't really take it seriously until 2020, but this was all a passion thing, and then it actually turned into a business. And you could do the same thing for yourself, or anybody else could do the same exact thing. And hyper-local coverage, like local networks, are something that are likely going to be needed at some point in the near future, especially if TV media kind of continues to go on the downtrend. So I definitely think it's important that you build your own brand, basically.
James, you've given me a little of your spirit, so I might be a jabroni here. 135 people in my coverage area died in July. 117 in one morning. Children, families, adults, people who were asleep, swept away, and in something that I never thought I would see. I still can't wrap my head around it. So what I would like everyone here, in person, online, to understand is I could give two bippity-bop boos about money, fame, how many followers I have. Guess what? I don't care about that. I care about helping people. So I would challenge everyone here to try to keep that in mind after this meeting, when we all go back to our little circles and start, nitpicking each other, because that's what happens, let's be honest. Let's keep the dialogue open. If anyone here ever has an issue with me, something my company does, come to me. My email's david@texasstormchasers.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me. You can find me on social media. Come to me and tell me, hey, I don't like this. I'll explain why I did it. And guess what? I'm not perfect. I'm a bonehead. I mess up all the time, and I admit it. But understand, I do this because I have a servant's heart. I think everyone up here has a servant's heart, just like all of you. And that's why we're here learning, investing our time, our resources to come together, learn about the science and how we can better help our communities.
To transition to their final thoughts, give them a second to compile. Something that's really nice about what you just said, David, is to recognize that we're all watching each other sort of improv live. We're trying to, on the spot, figure out all these technologies, how to use them, how to make them productive. So everyone pardon each other's construction dust a little bit. Let's give grace and then make more productive relationships. With that, final thoughts from the panelists.
Thanks, Kim. And to your point about construction dust, I would say that NWS Chat 2.0 falls into that category. So the terms of use are continually being evaluated to see if they best serve the needs both of our partners and of the National Weather Service. So we are in the process of figuring out how can we expand our bandwidth at the Weather Service to accommodate more users to the chat. How can we vet digital meteorologists, because by and large, we have not had members in the chat who are self-employed. So it was easier to identify whether this is someone who belongs in that space or not when we could verify with their employment. And of course, the scope. How do you differentiate between the local folks and the national? Should there be a national version of NWS Chat? All of these things are a part of our evaluation of the terms of use. As far as my reflections of this conversation, which I told a couple of people when I first got here, I feel like this is the start of a conversation. This is not a standalone conversation. And I really hope that we continue on this path. The big takeaway for me is how are we going to encourage collaboration between the Weather Service, our partners in traditional media, and our partners in digital media? Are there things that we can agree not to compete on? Are there things that we can agree not to overlap on? And with that in mind, are there gaps that can be filled if we stop doing those things?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, David. Reflection time. Yep, reflection time, if you have any final thoughts.
It's interesting coming back to Nash Severe Weather after retiring. It's striking to me what a part of the Nashville community they've become. And I think that's what a challenge is moving forward, is as the model continues to change from what we're doing now to really one of community building and engagement. There's gaps. Not everyone is served by what we do. There's certainly underserved populations. But for a huge segment of Nashville proper, especially Davidson-Williamson County, a community's been built that supports each other through big weather events and provides information back to the media and the National Weather Service, which I think it's amazing. It's amazing to see as an outsider coming back. So I think that can be done just about anywhere. It can be done through a lot of different scales, but it's special to see, and it's something you should check out if you get the chance.
Go ahead, Ashley.
I guess for me, I'm just really excited to have this conversation and to see the doors open for these folks. Like I said, I've watched, I've nerded out, I've caught, several different outbreaks with all of them, and I'm really encouraged, but also just really excited about some of the content. Some of the AI work that Ryan's putting together, being able to collect dispatch and report it, like emergency calls and stuff, that can really change the game in disaster management. And I think that we have a long way to go in terms of adapting technology, but really leveraging these new emerging technologies. So I'm just excited that we're having these conversations, and I hope that as an association, we can keep coming back to the table and really discussing how we can all work to save lives and protect property as our primary mission.
I think we can all agree that we've gotten a lot out of this panel. I think that there's a lot of things that all of us can improve on, and I also think there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration, not just with everybody up here, but everybody in the audience too, and anybody else that might be watching from home that, you know, is a meteorologist or an aspiring meteorologist. I mean, there's just so much opportunity for collaboration, building a community, building trust, and I think that's really the most important thing that I think all of us, you know, have gotten out of today, is that we need to continue to do that, continue to have the same unison message that, you know, we are all trying to save lives and we all want to collaborate and work together.
I think that weather communication in 2025 is in the best state it has ever been. And I think that obviously we've got a long ways to go. There's work that we can still do. But I think this interface, the digital interface is just, it actually just happens to be a really good way to disseminate life-saving information from the National Weather Service and from, SPC, WC, whatever it is. And once again, I just want to let it be known that I want to be a part of any conversation going forward that involves making this better, making what I do better for the people, make sure we're on the same page and all that good stuff.
And if we've learned one thing, we're not enemies in here, we're on the same team. But here's one question and I'm done, Kim, I promise. What's missing? What's missing from this IWT? What's missing from this IWT? The people we serve, all right? Well, I've been doing this a long time. We get around these meetings and all of us pinheads, we decide what's best for us. It doesn't matter. We have to do what's best for the people we serve. I hang out in Dollar Generals in places like Eastaboga, Andalusia, Waterloo. You've never heard of these places. Talk with these people. They will tell you what they need. Be among the people and understand them. Maybe take a little time you're spending on you and spend it on somebody else. And once you learn them, we'll all be better. But this is the start of something very important, and I'm honored, Kim, to be a part of this. Thank you. Sorry I talked so long.
Thank you so much. All right, thank everybody on this panel. This has been tremendous. And I will hand this over to Betsy. Thank you.
This was so exciting to watch it come together and unfold. As you can imagine, over the last year, as the idea kind of came to fruition and people started to really work on it and collaborate together, it's been a little bit of a journey to get here. So we're thrilled that we were able to have a peppering from multiple facets of our weather world that we are in. We are going to have buses departing for Barron, Bob Barron's lake house, because that's how we're gonna roll this year. Those buses, if you have tickets and you're on that list, those buses are actually gonna be departing from out here. So remember, the hotel, at least if you're at the Embassy Suites, is 4.5 miles that way. So you get to hike back 4.5 miles that way, get your stuff, flip it, and run back here. So just make sure that you account for that. The buses are supposed to leave at 5:30. So if you're not there at 5:30, I don't know what happens to you, but we're gonna have a very good time this evening. So thanks everybody for all you did today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your patience. We'll see you around, if not tonight, this week. Kim?
Oh, just a quick thought. Some of our folks are going to be sticking around at the happy hour over at the Embassy.
Oh, yes.
So feel free to join. Come follow us to drinks.
The legendary Embassy.
I'm with you. I'm happy hour.
Yes. I was like, oh, I can't forget the happy hour. We had spent so much time thinking about that.
My broadcast friends are like, you're not going to the Bob Barron thing. I'm like, I'm not a broadcaster anymore.
Come on, public affairs, you don't count.